Woo. Ready?
Oh, you're live.
I thought you were going to,
You're live, JC.
I thought we have a little bit better of an introduction.
Do I got to get a whip? What's going on?
All right. Hey, everybody, this is JC from Westcott. I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about some entry-level flash stuff that's going to hopefully take some of the fear out of lighting for you guys. Specifically tonight, we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about creating drama, because I find that whenever I do a live demo, whenever I'm teaching someplace and I talk to the people who walk up and I go, what do you want to do? Do you want it to be nice and natural, or do you want drama? Always, everybody goes, I want drama. Because it's like, I think that the reason for that is because it's the opposite of what you can do with natural light. Natural light, it's a lot easier to try to make something that looks natural. So adding that drama is that thing that you can only do this way, or at least easily. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to also, as we get into this, we're going to talk about creative mask, which is a mode that Westcott added into the two newest lights that we have. It's going to, for me, gives me a little bit of an ability to efficiently, without going back and forth to my triggers and changing things, create multiple looks just from the camera. I'll explain more about that in a second, but let's start here first. So lighting, the first question we should ask ourselves, why do we even need to add light, right? We need to add light so that we can be creative. So, everybody that's in here, I imagine, if they were better, they'd paint. But we've found ourselves being photographers, right? So we're out there and we have a choice between taking photos or making photos. And the biggest way to separate yourself from everybody else is to learn how to add light. Adding light is going to be that thing that separates you from all the rest of the people that are out there. And what I really enjoy is that as I've gotten older, I'm seeing more and more people embrace strobe and embrace lighting in general, and I'm seeing better work than ever. 10 years ago, it was really easy to separate yourself. Now you got to be really good to separate yourself. But we're going to go over a process that's going to make it so that if you understand ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, everybody here does know those three things, then you'll be able to add light. Because I run into so many people that are like, I really like available light. And what they usually mean is, I'm scared of adding light to it, and they're unwilling to admit that the strobes are available. The constant lights are available. We can always add that light. And for me, I know that when I get called to do a gig, 9 times out of 10, it's at a time when the natural light is terrible. So I tend to go, there's natural light shooters and there's available light shooters. I'm an available light shooter. Whatever's available to me, I'm going to add to my picture. We're going to do a demo. As I mentioned to you guys here, I had an unfortunate incident with the model that I had for today who sliced her foot open, so she's not here. So we're going to pull some of you good-looking people into the crowd over here to model. I'm also eventually going to get some of you guys to come up and take part in this. But what we're going to talk about is my process, how I go from taking an available light shot to something that's very dramatic. We're going to talk about modifier choices. And then eventually we're going to add this creative mask. So let's start by bringing somebody up here. Who wants a picture? You're back up. He volunteered once today. Yeah. All right. So one of the most intimidating things to me, as somebody who's now been doing this for a while, it still can be intimidating, is walking into a situation that I don't have a lot of control over. I get booked to go to somebody's office, I get booked to go to their studio, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Because I love the idea of pre-visualization of, in my mind, going, what am I going to do? But as Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's really easy to think, I'm going to do A, B, C, D. And then when you get there, realize that the space isn't the same that you thought. Your ceilings aren't the color, the walls aren't the color. You're going to have to improvise really quick, because all of this is problem solving. So I come in here. We've decided, introduce yourself to everybody at home.
Hi guys, my name is Andre.
Yeah. He's our client. So he's decided that he wanted something that made him look a little bit more dramatic, a little bit tougher, because all the rest of his headshots are light and airy. That's the key word these days, right? So we're going to do our best to take him, and instead of him looking like somebody that's really approachable, he maybe looks a little bit like somebody that might be dangerous. We're going to go with that. So I'm going to have him come up. And one of the things that I like to do is, if I'm going to try to create drama, is control where the light goes, right? So if I have that light go anywhere in my picture, then I'm going to create even more drama for myself, not the kind of drama that I want to have in my picture. So if I have him step away from that background, it's easier for me to control the light that goes to the background. Now, I go through the same process all the time. I've been here before. I've done From Fear to Flash, which is the class that I teach that's really an entry-level lighting class. I'm going to start with ISO in my head. In this case, I'm going to shoot at 100 because it's all controlled. I want the best image quality possible. Then I'm going to think about focal length. In this space, I'm a little bit limited, right? So it's going to be somewhere in the 35 to 70 range, depending on how much of him I want to shoot. Now, why that's important is because the first big creative decision that I'm going to make is aperture. And it's aperture not because it's going to control how much total light's coming into my picture, although it is. It's because it's going to dictate what's in focus in my photo. It's going to control the depth of field. Between the lights, between shutter speed, which is coming up next, I have other ways to control the total amount of light that's in my photo. But depth of field, I can only control one way, with my focal length and my aperture. So if I'm shooting the same picture outside, and there's something in the background that's distracting, maybe then I'm gonna go, let's shoot this at 3.5, let's shoot this at 4, let's shoot this at 1.4, whatever, because I'm trying to control depth of field for a creative reason. But in here, I wanna make sure that he's sharp all the way through. Let's pretend that he's got great eyelashes. They're okay. You know, if he had those big eyelashes, some of these cameras now are so good at eye focus, but they will catch the eyelashes instead of the eye. And if I decide to shoot that at 1.4, well, suddenly I've got eyelashes in focus and I've got eyes that are out of focus. If I was shooting him for a barber school, I want to make sure all of his hair is in focus. The thing is, I'm shooting against a black background. So if that goes out of focus, who cares? Even if I was shooting something that had a little bit of texture back there, who cares? What's important to me is that he's in focus. I do a lot of, if you guys are looking at my Instagram by any chance, I do a lot of sports stuff. And one of the things that I'm finding now is that younger me was in love with my fast glass and shooting them fast because I wanted to show off the fact that I had all this fast glass. And when I look at those old pictures, I go, wow, like the guy turned this way and the patch on the arm is out of focus because I decided to shoot this at 2.8 at 135 or something. I'm much more given as I've gotten a little bit older when it doesn't serve me for creative purposes to stop down a little bit. I've got enough light. I've got, you know, all these other abilities. ISO on the cameras is through the roof, right? I can get more light if I need to. So I'm going to look at him, and for the people that are home that maybe are not as comfortable, you haven't failed as often as I have. I'm a big fan of failing forward, of making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. I know that at 50 millimeters at f8 that I've got about 6 or 7 feet of depth of field acceptable. So I'm going to be good at this distance. But there are depth of field calculators. Just Google it. It'll give you the focal length, the distance, and it'll tell you how much you have at that distance. That's the safest way to do it. But eventually, you'll incorporate that just into your brain because you'll have made some mistakes or you've just have learned. So I'm going to step back here. I'm going to turn off that light. So I'm using the FJ800 as my main light here. I have it, it's going to be turned way down. I don't need all that power, but it's nice to have because I'm going to stop down a little bit. Now, let's go F8. After I've picked that, the next thing that I'm going to pick is shutter speed. The shutter speed is going to control my ambient light. In this case, what I would like is a black frame. I would like all of the light in this picture to come from where I control it. Because the one reason that I'm adding light to pictures is to be creative. And the more that I can have control over that, the more I can say, this is what my intent was. I like to light with some intent. So this first shot's going to be f8 at, I'm going to switch it down to 2/50th of a second because just about everybody's camera can sync at 2/50th. My camera will sync at 400th, which is a nice thing, but let's do it to something that everybody can do. I'm going to frame him up. There we go. Take a picture. And we got a black frame. All right, that's perfect. Having that black frame means now that this light, that light is not part of this exposure. So whatever I add to him now is going to be with purpose, which is what I'm really trying to do here. So let's turn on A. I did a really brief test right before this, but I have now switched some settings, so it's on purpose going to be messed up because I think that we should work through this the way that you would. The right way to do this would be to get out a light meter. That'd be a great thing to do, but Westcott doesn't sell light meters, so I'm not going to use one. That's my answer. All right, let's take a baby step this way. I'm, hey, I'm being honest, right? All right. All right. So I'm a good guesser. I should have failed worse to make this look like a bad example. But I only am guessing that well because I have failed so many times because I've been doing this for so long. So I ended up at F8 at 2/50th of a second. I had set my power on my lights to 5/6 on that group. Now what that means is we have 9 stops of control on our lights. 9 would be full power, 8 would be 1 stop down from that, 7 would be a stop down from that, and we also have 1/10 of a stop on the right. I don't know if there's a way for me to show that, but it doesn't. The triggers or one camera that I can do that to. It's not important. Okay. Yeah. Am I too close?
Oh, mine,
I don't know. We're live. It's all right.
Tap the screen where you want it to focus.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So like I was saying, we've got up to 6 groups on the trigger. This is group A. Now, why would I have multiple groups? Because if I want this second light or a third light or a fourth light to not be the exact same power as the first one, I'm going to set those on different groups. Group A, I have set to 5.6 in this case, which turned out to be a pretty good guess. I think maybe he's a little bit hot on the right side that's lit, right? So I'll turn it down 2/10 of a stop, just as a guess. Let's first do this. Let's pretend that I knew nothing. I'll put it on 9 power, which should be full power. We'll make some mistakes on purpose because that's, all right. So we blew it out. Now, we're in a studio and we're worried about inverse square law. We're worried about a lot of other things, and that's how the light's going to go past him and go to the background. The closer the light is to him, the faster the fall off's going to be. But in this case, it overpowered that, because in the first picture, we didn't have that problem. So I look at him and I go, how bright is he? Is he twice as bright as he should be? That'd be 1 stop. Is he 4 times as bright as he should be? It'd be 2 stops. I think he's much more than that. So I'm going to take a guess based off of a lifetime of failure. I'm going to go down to 6 first because I think that he's at least 3 stops too bright. There we go. Okay. We were in the ballpark now, and then that's where I would be. Now, 10 years ago, when the screens were worse on the backs of these cameras, then I was definitely shooting tethered, or I was definitely using a light meter much more often because it was more accurate. The screens have gotten so good now that I feel like I can look at it. It's a pretty accurate representation of what I'm going to see on my screen. So I've gone down to 5.3. Now our model, like almost every model that you'll ever shoot, sees that the light's on that side and has insisted on looking away from it. That's what they all do. If I move the light to this side, I guarantee he'll look that way. So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to go, okay, now if that's the mood I'm going for, then it's fine. But I'm going to say, hey, Andre, turn this way. Let's look towards the light and see where we're at. So now we got a little bit more light on his face. He's a little bit more approachable. Now, we've created all that drama that we talked about already. And that's cool. It's that proverbial, showing fire to a fish moment where you're like, hey, I couldn't have done that without adding this light. But now I'm going to look at it and I go, if I think that exposure is right, but I don't like the light placement. I don't like the quality of the light on him. Because now we've worked out a mount. A mount is least important to me. Not because it has to be right, but what I'm thinking about more because of the storytelling aspect of it, of how people are going to perceive him in this picture, is direction. So right now, I'm relatively high. I'm like 45, but I'm going to bring it a little bit more in front, but I'm going to think about it as though he's the center of a clock. Because now when I move this light, if I move it closer or farther, I'm suddenly going to make him brighter or less bright, which is I don't want to do because I don't want to go back to what I just did. What I want instead is just to see what a different quality of light will be on him as I move the light around. I can. Will that help you? Here we go. Turn on the modeling lights so the people at home can see him a little bit better. I got plenty of power. I was able to focus anyway, but here we go. All right. So now just by that little move, I moved it what? A foot, this way. But I didn't move it a foot this way, because then geometry would tell us that it would be much closer to him. I pretended that I was on a string. I moved it in a circle. Now, I like that a little better. I think that it's a little less extreme. Without zooming it in, if I zoom it in here, is it going to, it won't, right?
Hit P,
Yeah.
and you can just do a loop.
I want to see it, yeah. All right, can we see that modeling light? Because that's the thing that I'm going to kind of be really focused on, and that's going to go a long way towards not only where I decide to place my lights, but it also, for me, is going to depend on which modifiers I pick. You know, Westcott makes rapid boxes in different shapes, different sizes, and they're all going to be something that I'm going to pick for different uses. I tend to really like round soft boxes because I like round catch lights. That's like the number one reason that I tend to pick them. It's an aesthetic choice more than anything else. Because the softness of the light, though, is going to be dictated by the size of the light source in relation to the size of the subject. So now if I want that light to be softer, and by softer, what we're talking about isn't less intense. I think there's a lot of people at home that are maybe beginners that mistake the intensity of the light for the quality of the light, the softness or hardness of the light. Now, I don't think hard or soft are bad words. You know, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's a portrait, we got to shoot soft light. Not if it's not the story I want to tell. If it's the story I want to tell, I'm going to make it hard. Now, if this was the only modifier I had, how could I make it softer or harder? Somebody. Move it closer with the light. So there was another answer about maybe we could throw some more diffusion in front of it. That'd be great. But moving it closer. Because even though it is still a 36-inch beauty dish, it is going to be bigger in relation to him. Now, when I move it closer, I'm going to have to turn down the power. But we're going to do it. I'm going to frame it closer to him. Move it down. Take a baby step that way again. Okay. Now, at the same time, I'm going to feather it away from him a little bit so that it doesn't hit my background. Now it's going to be too strong. We know that. Boom. So he got brighter, but the wraparound is a little bit better. If you look at just the part of his face where it stops being lit, it's a little bit more gradual now. There's still shadows, because you can have directional light that is soft, and you can have direct light that's hard if you move it far enough back. You know, where it goes to shadows would then be faster, the graduation would be less. All right, so we moved it closer. Let's turn down the power. I'm going to say we're going to probably one stop. And I think I probably did it too much. I think he looked better somewhere in the middle of those two. He's like scared of it. There you go. I think that's better. I think that, you know, for me, looking at it on screens and trying to, you know, not really being critical, I really like the way that looks. Now, if I decide that I want more light on the background, what do you think I should do? There's a couple of things. That was a great answer. I could feather it back towards the light. If this was a gray background, let's say, or something where we wanted to get some texture, as long as this light can see him, as long as he can see the light can see him. So if we decide that we want to feather it this way, it's still going to hit him, but more of it's going to spill to the background. That's not what I'm trying to do right now, so we'll take a shot just so you guys can see real quick. Okay. I think with black, it's not going to make a difference, but I did lose some of the light that was coming around to the side of his face. So when I see this situation now, I start going to myself, what can make this better? I don't want to do that. Good call. He said we can move him farther to the back, but it's black. I'm not worried about that. But what I don't like right now is that his hair in the back of his head is being lost. It's not bad. And I know that 15-year-old ago me would go, this is great, because I was able to make something that I couldn't do. But now I'm looking at it, I'm going, all right, so we're losing his hair. Now, if he had, he got cool hair, but if he had cooler hair, then this would be a necessity for us to do something about this. If his hair was the main thing that we were paying attention to, but we're going to add that second light into this equation now. Now, when I decide to add in a second light, the easiest thing to do to make sure that you don't mess this up is to turn off your main light. And we're just going to shoot, we're going to work from the back to the front. And anytime that I add a light that's behind my subject, or if I'm adding a light to the background, let's say I decided to use my optical spot and throw it onto the background, I'm always going to start with that to see how that looks without the main light. Because when I look at it quick, on the screen I can see it, but if I looked at it quick here, especially if somebody has light hair, it'll look fine here. And when I get home, it won't be. It'll be blown out. And we all have enough dynamic range in the modern cameras to pull some shadows out, but what I can't do is repair something that's blown out. So I'm going to be a little bit more critical of that backlight than I even am of my front light. Not to say I'm not critical of everything, I am, but all right, let's take a look. Now, my placement for that, this is the art, right? Is where it's going to go. Right now, it's 180 degrees away from my main light. That's always a good place to start. It depends on what I'm doing. A lot of time, like here in this studio, I don't have space behind my backdrop. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll end up taking like my 1x4 or my 1x3. I'll put it right up totally above the background, aim back at me. Modern cameras, less flare, make sure it's high enough. But that means that if I get a subject that wants to turn left or turn right, I've still got a nice hair light across to both shoulders. Separation light, whatever we want to call it. But in this case, let's see where we're at. Boom. I think we could use a little more than that, right? So one of the challenges that we're going to have is just movement. But all right, a little bit better. Now, here. All right, so I'm zoomed in on that. I'm seeing skin detail. I'm seeing that his hair is no longer lost. I'm going to go a little brighter, but not a lot, because I don't want to get to that point where I lose skin detail. What's that?
It's just easier on the stream.
Okay. Well, the other one's going to come on back in a second. You won't see it out of that one so much. It's a good call.
Yeah, it's just dark.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to turn it up 6. Now, this is an 800 watt light. That's a 400 watt light. So when I'm talking to you about the power settings that I'm using, right off the bat, this one's a stop more powerful. So that one, to be even, would have to be 1 stop above what I have on this one. Then we got to add in the fact that it is much farther back. So I'm going to have to turn it up even more. So even though my main light's at 4.8, my backlight right now is at 6 for this next shot. And I think that we're going to be pretty happy there. I feel good about that. All right, so his hair has become an actual thing. We've got detail on his cheek. Now we're going to put those 2 shots together. The thing that really clicked for me with lighting, where this went from being something where I felt like I was guessing all the time and I was working backwards from trying to work with the lights and then make my settings fit, is now I'm going, every lit picture is 2 separate exposures. It's the one that I created here, and now we're going to add these lights. It's almost like we're doing an HDR with every lit picture. So we had that black frame at the beginning. All this light's now us. This is just going to be almost like we're doing masks. This is one mask. I've now lit him here correctly. Now I'm going to add this other one in. Let's take a baby step back. There you go. All right, just your head. Okay, I'm using my Jedi powers for you. That little bit of separation to me, if we were able to go back real fast to 3 pictures ago, there to there, I might even start to now move that. Because I like it, and I definitely like it better. But now, as we separate ourselves from, as we learn this and as we get better and better at it, you know, in the words of Thomas Jefferson, let's not throw away our shot, right? So not him, it was Hamilton, right? It wasn't Jefferson, it was Hamilton who didn't want to throw away his shot. We're going to take this light now and we're going to go, what am I doing wrong? Let me get it a little bit higher, because right when I look at that picture, it's not on his hair as much as I want. I'm just getting it here. So I'm going to throw it up a little bit higher. Don't move. All right, look mean. Look happy. Look mean. It's happy. Right. So that hair light went a little bit higher. Now I made a little mistake and I left it in the picture. Now, if I have a choice now where I'm shooting this between doing 12 seconds of post to take that out of there, if it's at the correct distance for the look that I want, then I'll do the post. I'd rather not. So I'm going to move it just back a little bit and raise the power a little bit. But I do like where we're at as far as the hair. And we're dealing with, I really can't. We're up against it. Like I said, everybody's got a plan. Sometimes the space is going to dictate some of the things that we do. We don't like it that way, but we have to sometimes go, what's this space allow us? So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to ask him if he can move over just a little bit. Take a baby step that way. There. I moved everything, tried to move it the same distance. Okay. Cross your arms. Turn your body a little bit more. Mirror me. Yep, there you go. No, you were right. Mirror me. There you go. Now. That looks better, I think. It looks better on my camera for sure. What do you guys think? Is that better as far as just trying to create a little bit of drama? Now, this is easy when we're doing something against a black background. Now, what if you're in a situation where you don't have a black background, but you're still looking for that look? If you can go back to process instead of going to recipes, like one of the things that formed how I teach, which I know sometimes sounds a little bit repetitive and a little bit basics, is because the first class that I ever took and the only class that I ever took, unfortunately said, put light A here, light B here, put it at F8, put this one at 125th, put these at these powers. And unfortunately, that only works in that situation at that spot. So recipes to me for this don't work. I need just to always be able to fall back to process. So come here real quick. You're going to stand right here. Now, if I decide that I need pretty much that similar picture, but instead I've got this background back here, I can do the same thing. I'm just going to now work backwards. I'm going to say, what's important to me in this picture, depth of field wise? You guys are important, but for this picture, you're not. So we're going to say, I'm going to still shoot him at, I'm going to move it to 5.6 or 6.3, something that's going to eliminate some of the details back there. But mostly I'm going to control it with shutter speed and ISO. So if I can get myself a black frame shooting this way, I'll end up with the exact same kind of shot that we just did going this way. I think that's something that people generally like to see, so we're going to try it. You know what? We're going to really get funky. We're going to change our main light source. So I'm going to go back to I'm going to use the smaller light source because let's say that he looked at that picture and he said, I still look too kind. I want this. This is my LinkedIn picture for my international arms dealer job. And I need people to be scared of me. All right, so stand right there. Because the last thing that he wants, which way do you feel better looking? But now you got your options. So you tell me, you feel good? That's better for you? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, thanks, bro. Well, I'm going to shoot that way. Oh, I understand what you're saying. I got you.
Can I throw a bag on that?
Yeah, if it makes you happy.
Chat's already going.
Oh, really? That's funny. All right. There we go. So let's go back to where we started. Let's go back to process. This process is good. So I've turned off A. I've turned off B. I'm at F8 at 200th of a second again. Let's see what happens with that. I think we're going to see a little bit in the background, but not much. So we're seeing just a little bit of Seth's awesome set that he built by hand with blood and sweat.
What am I?
So we see it a little bit. There's going to come a point where it would be easier for me to take it out and post, as much as I don't love that idea, than it would be to change it. What are the lights that are showing up? Is it that one that's over the Sony? Yeah, that's that white. Okay. So I got two choices. I can frame it differently so that's not in the shot anymore, which is what we're going to do. Take a baby step that way. And then we're going to go this way. Okay. Still see it. It's not.
The Sony booth just.
Yeah. It's just going to become one of these situations where I go, whatever. All right. Let's turn on the light. See where we're at. So he told us I look too kind in that picture. So we're going to make him a little, well, a lot. Let's not go half measures. So now I got a smaller light source. I'm gridded. So I'm going to be, and I've moved it a little farther away. So I'm harder all the way around. Because I don't want, he looked at it, the client looked at it and said, no, this is, I look too soft. It's you. You said that. That's group B, put it on, there we go. I think we lost the connection.
That's the frame you just shot.
No.
Yeah.
That doesn't make
That's
sense.
your fourth frame.
It does not make sense. Let's find out. Boom. That was odd. I like the eye there. Do that again. Give me that. Very, very, very like, I'm going to leave that one alone. All right, so I look, that's a good look for you, by the way. So let's look at that. What do we think? You tell me. I know I have an opinion. What do you guys think? Oh, I love that. All right, we can do that. But as far as his exposure, what do we think? He's too bright. All right, so at least twice as bright as he should be. So down one stop. I was at 8, now I'm at 7. We're going to do your little, do the same thing. Nope, keep your body there. Just bring your chin. There you go. Give us that. Yeah. Okay. That's much better. That exposure's good, I think. There is a catch light. It's maybe somewhere right in the middle of those two because maybe he's a little dark right now. So I'll go back 7.4 and take the picture. You didn't give me the face that time. What are you doing? You look a little sleepy in that one.
No, I ain't gonna be able to do that again.
Okay, that was definitely, let's take a baby step this way. There you go. All right, so now focal length, I'm gonna move it back. It should be a little more flattering to him, a little more out of focus in the background. There you go. All right. Now I think that the one, again, same problem that we had earlier. The catch light on that side looks great. We're not quite getting it on this side. So then you got to make it, it's going to be a creative choice. Are we going to take the light and bring it around to the front of him a little bit, which will give us that catch light, but it's going to change the total quality of the light, which is going to be a problem. I agree with you, Nairi. He was definitely a little too bright. So let's add a hair light. There's really not a space to do it. What do you think? Oh, I'd have to drop it in there. Yeah, that's what I think we're going to do. I think that's what we're going to do. Who's strong? You keep winning everything. Come on. They told me to look out for you.
Coming to the plate, Eric Bird.
The winner of all things. Yeah, I'm going to get it. Don't let me knock over your camera. There you go. All right, back to your spot. you're going to sneak in over here. I think that he wants to be the model. You saw him, right? I saw it. All right. You're going to go back as far as you can, but don't knock into any of his blood, sweat, and tear hung stuff. Don't want to hurt him. All right, so you're going to have to get back somehow.
Take the chairs, push them out of the way.
Yeah, there's nobody sitting there. There you go. Don't knock the TV over.
Eric, move.
We're going to make this happen. Doing okay on it. Look at that. Back to your spot. All right, there you go. All right, Eric, you're going to take it back as much as you can. Then you're going to go up a little bit and tilt it down just a tiny bit. Okay. Pretend that you are, that was a little premature illumination. No? Not you. You're going to come closer. Eric? I know you're having a hard time, Eric, but you can do it. There we go. All right, you ready? And we're going to turn that one on. That's the 8. Okay. Oh, that looks much better. What's that? Yeah, he looks good now, right? Yeah, that's like, I think that's the best mix of like, he's giving us his evil playing with the whiskers on his chin. They're not really there. He's kind of doing this, stroking his goatee while we also got some separation, which I'm pretty happy about. Now, let's say that what would I do if I've decided that this is too dramatic and you guys are his evil minions and I want you to be in the picture? What do I do? I see the mouths going, but I'm not hearing anything. I could add a third light, but let's say that this is all I got. Let's slow our shutter speed down. Excellent choice. So we're going to let in more ambient light because every lit picture is 2 separate exposures. So I'm going to drop down. Now, one of the cool parts about using strobes is that I can slow this down a lot because the flash duration means that he's going to stay sharp. The flash is going off at one speed, my shutter's going off at another. So as long as I can stay relatively still, he'll be sharp. You guys might blur a little bit if you decide to move, but we're going to take it down to a 15th because I think that at my age I can still kind of hold a 15th. Let's see where we're at with this after that.
It's only a stabilized camera.
Well, you know, this guy got to always take it away. All right, take a baby step in. All right, let's see where we're at. I can't wait. I'm going to be in the chat talking about you from now on. All right, so now we got a little bit of you guys, but not as much as I'd like. It would probably end up in a situation where I'd have to add a third light for you guys. But let's see what happens once we do throw some of this light on, because some of this light's going to spill forth to you guys. There we go. There we go. Oh, yeah. Chin up a little bit. Chin up. Eric, you're really failing me. Oh, Alex wants to know where that light is. It's at 180 degrees behind. Oh, interesting. So he's tack sharp even though I'm at a 15th. I can keep going slower here. Let's go down to a 5th, see where we're at. We got plenty of depth of field so that you guys would all be relatively in focus. There we go. Notice the exposure on him is not changing. Shutter speed doesn't control the exposure on our subject. The power that I've picked with my light and my aperture does to a certain extent as well. If I changed my aperture right now, that would control some of the power, but I don't do that. Not because I can't. I will change that aperture if suddenly I decide that I want less or more depth of field, not as a way to control the power of the light. I've been in that situation where it seemed easier to do that. But the thing of it is that I'm putting in depth of field as a creative choice. So if I decide mid-shot to go, oh, he's too bright, let me change the aperture so that it changes the power on him, I've changed my depth of field. It's a lot easier now to take my FJX trigger and pick the right amount of power. Just dial it in. If I think he's a little too hot, a little too cold, a little too cool, then we're going to do that. All right, so let's, yes. I hopefully have an answer.
What if instead of changing shutter speed, we can put ISO higher?
That is fantastic. Yep. So her question was, what's your name?
Larissa.
Larissa?
Larissa L.
Larissa. Okay. Larissa has a great question, which was, and there's a slide in From Fear to Flash that covers it. It's a great example. Why would I change my ISO? And one of the reasons that I would change ISO is if I was in a situation just like this, where we've all shot that picture at a birthday party, at a bar, at something, where we take a picture, the subject's well lit, and the background goes dark right away, pretty much no matter what. And we get to a certain point where we can keep slowing down that shutter speed, but there's gonna come a point where I can't handhold it, or you guys are gonna be moving. So if you're moving, then that's a problem. So let's think of it that we're shooting a band. You're at the local club, they let you use a flash, which is really nice. They don't always let you do that, but they go, yeah, we want nice pictures of the band, let's do that. Why would I change ISO? So if I picked a shutter speed, so we just saw him. Even if he moved a little bit, he'd still be sharp. The flash freezes him. But the only parts of these pictures that are gonna get frozen are the pictures that the light's hitting. That makes sense, right? If the light hits him, it's frozen. Whatever's in the ambient light is gonna get the same kind of motion that it would get if I was shooting that. If I shot a 1/5 of a second and I moved or you moved, you'd be a blur. So let's say I picked, you're a guitar player, you're the bass player, you're the drummer. You guys are moving. I don't want you guys to be whirling dervishes in the picture. I want you to have the idea of some motion, but I want you to be relatively sharp. So let's say I go 200th of a second. That'd be, let's go even 100th of a second. So we were just at a 5th to get you guys to show up. So 5th to a 10th, to a 20th, to a 40th, to an 80th. That's a giant range of stops difference there. So I go, all right, how can I make you guys brighter but maintain the ability to freeze the action? I could raise the ISO, which is, so you touched it. I wouldn't do it so much with people that aren't moving unless I feel like I have to. But I'm definitely in a situation where if I need more ambient, I'm gonna do it. With the cameras now, like I feel comfortable to a relatively high ISO. I'll just play with that. When I shoot concert stuff now, I'm shooting that at like 1600 ISO because then I can turn down the power of my flashes. Even though I'm using flashes in my pictures, I can turn them down, lets my battery life go on forever, which is a great question. That was solid. Thanks, Larissa. All right. Yep. Who's got a camera? Who wants to shoot? Come on up, Eric. You want to still model, or are we going to find a new model? All right, we'll get a new model. You can grab a seat. So everybody, we're going to welcome Eric to the event space here. We're going to get him to do a little something. We're going to start this out as though this was a fresh shoot for you. Okay? Thank you. You're going to model. You got, you look, you got a good look. I think it's going to work good for us. You want to shoot this way or you want to shoot that way? Let's go. Okay, we're going to go that way. Yep. Now, let's give him a seat. I'll give him that stool. Sure, if you don't mind. Okay. I don't know how long this is going to take. So he might have you here for a week.
Week?
I don't know. I don't know much about Eric.
50 minutes, Eric, right?
So do you think should we try to plug Eric in?
Tether?
Yeah.
Second to tether?
I don't know.
Yeah, but what do you got on there?
It's a USB-C?
Yeah, it'll be.
Okay.
I'm not going to work in the same session, but we'll find out.
Well, let's figure it out. This is the...
So we'll put the white side on a box like that.
Thanks. Let's see what happens. Again, we're going to reinforce process over recipes. So as long as he listened to anything I just said, it showed up. Yep, yep. As long as he listened to anything I just said, hopefully he can do all this. It shows up.
Okay, your ISO is cranked. And
Yeah,
your
we'll fix it. We'll get to it. Let's take your ISO down to 100.
Let's put you on manual. You're on time value right now. Full manual. All right.
All right. So
Take your ISO down.
a couple of things that will make your lighting life easier, which we're kind of addressing right now. All the camera companies spent a lot of money to get time value, aperture value, P to work pretty well. But if our main goal here is to be creative and to have some control over this, when you decide to shoot flash, put the camera in manual. We're not even talking about TTL or manual on the lights. I prefer manual. There's a room for both of them. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't put the camera in manual when you decide to throw some lights in, because camera company's going to say, well, a 60th is right, and maybe that's not right for you. So we're going to put it in manual.
So you should be pretty good. We'll leave it at 71.
All right. You feel good looking that way? Is that your way?
Oh,
Do you feel better that way?
Which way?
No. What's your good side, man?
This side.
I feel like that's your good side, I think. All right. Yeah, I'm going to give it to him. Yeah. All right, so the Westcott triggers, we've got two triggers. We got the S trigger, which I've been using because I'm shooting on a Sony, and we got the M trigger, which is the multi-brand trigger. It works on everybody else. So we're going to put it on. We're going to pick...
He has to take it off of exposure simulation.
No, it overrides the minute when he does that. But let's make sure that we're... Okay, flash is working. Let's put these to sleep. All right, so let's go through some choices for you, right? So you've got a camera and you got a lens. So you're gonna pick, for better or worse, there's no judgment here. You've got the kit lens, which is variable. So you're gonna have to pick your focal length first. Because if he decides to pick an aperture first and then he just zooms during it, we might end up in a situation where we lose power and you're gonna be saying to yourself, why is this underexposed? Why is this overexposed? Because you changed it. So you're gonna look at him, you're gonna make a decision. What focal length are you shooting? Are you framed out the way you want right now? So he's at 18 millimeters, it's a crop body, so it's somewhere around 27. So he's got 27 going on. That's gonna give him a lot of freedom as far as aperture because he's got inherently more depth of field because he's got a wider lens. How much depth of field would you like, Eric? This is the next thing that goes through my head. And this process is always what's going through my head. It never changes. I kind of internalize it at this point, so it's happening really fast to where I'm not really thinking each step, but I am going through this every time I do this. How much would you like to be in focus? There's not a wrong answer.
I guess as much as focus as I can be.
So let's go F8. You feel good about F8? All right, F8 and be there. So he's picked F8. If whatever he'd have picked at this point, we'd have been good. As long as he tells me that he's doing it because it's what he wants. If he's doing it because, like, one of the big things to me, one of the reasons I love lights is it allows me to free my camera, to make all these creative choices myself. I don't like the camera making the choices for me. So that's why I shoot in manual. It's why I shoot, my ISO right. It's why I like to shoot, manual with the lights. All right, so we've turned off these. Now let's pick a shutter speed. Inside, we haven't talked about high-speed sync. We don't need to talk about a high-speed sync in here necessarily, although it would work. But for this, we're gonna say, let's go 200th because it's probably the normal sync speed on this camera. And I'm gonna be sure that I'm gonna give myself this black frame. Seth's got these beautiful lights around us, and if we decide to shoot this at 1/125th or 60th or something like that, we might end up with some spill from the available light that's already in the room. So 200th. It might only go to 1/160th. Is that what it's topping out at? Yeah. So the top sync speed on this camera is 1/160th of a second. That's something that's important for you to know. We could obviously go past that if we had to, but we don't have to. Let's take a test shot real quick. Did I lose some?
I think the remote needs to get refreshed.
Let's just take a picture and see what happens.
Well, it's blacked
Oh,
out.
I see that. Can I take a look real quick? Yeah. Oh, I know what we did. I know what I did wrong. It should be black.
I think you got to start a new session.
Yeah?
I think it's not reading the raw files.
All right.
Like a.
Go ahead.
new
Can
file
you do
folder.
it? Any questions in the audience while we work this out real quick? Yes, sir.
When you started taking the portrait pictures, you positioned the camera like over here, not at the eye level. We usually learn that.
No, it's a solid question.
Is any reason-
The main reason is that I'm Yeti sized. If I shoot here on anybody who is shorter than me, I'm going to end up tilting just a little bit. Now, a little bit, you're probably not going to see. But if I don't pay attention and I tilt too much, you're going to end up like that old Steve Madden ad with the big heads and the small bodies if I tilt this way. Same thing if I went the other way, we'd end up with a bigger this. I want to keep the camera flat as much as I can for this, unless, again, I'm doing it for a purpose. If I've got a reason to shoot at a certain focal length or a certain tilt or a certain if I'm doing something on purpose,
Just do it for JPEG.
yeah, it's just the raw, doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something's going on.
Okay.
This might need to be updated, capture one. So it'll give me an error on the raw, but the JPEG comes up.
Okay.
Unless you want to take off raw.
I know. Yeah, we're almost done. Apologize for this getting slow at the last second here. We were doing pretty good for a bit, but Eric came up and messed up the whole thing. We're gonna blame Eric. So I tend to do that. 5 years ago, if I would have seen somebody shooting like this, I inherently was like, about it. But as I've gotten older, first off, my knees don't work as good as they did. But secondly, like when I was younger, I shot film this way. There's really not something wrong with doing it.
But I mean, that makes sense. But,
Yeah. I just like it to be flat.
when it's flat, you try to put it in
Somewhere around the eye.
level or
Yeah, somewhere around eye level. One of the beautiful things about the modern mirrorless cameras is that the main thing to me is the focus points go top to bottom. When I'm teaching, sometimes I'll have somebody come up and I see them leaving a ton of space at the top. And I go, you just recently were shooting SLRs, weren't you? And their answer is always yes, because they're so used to having to have so much dead space at the top. The mirrorless body is like, so I can bring it down, frame it the way I like, and the focus point's going to go to the eye anyway. So, all right. All right, let's see where we're at. So we've established a black frame. Let's turn on group B. Let's aim it at our subject. Let's take a test shot. Is that out of your frame? Okay, this is not though, I assume, right? All right. Okay. Any one of those should be all right. All right. So when you look at it, what do you think? He's not enough light, right? All right, so that's cool. Now, as you learn, you'll know that at f8 on a 400 watt light that you need more power than where we were. But right now, the first time he used this light, first time he's done some lighting here live on stage in front of 1 million people at home. He's nervous. He didn't think about it. So we're gonna come down to group B. We're gonna press that. I'm gonna say 2.5 stops. This is a guess. All right, go ahead, take a picture. He really likes to. No, he doesn't have a lot of finger control. It's all right. You're doing good. How do you feel about that one? You can look over here or up there. Or...
Much better.
Much better or good?
Good.
All right. You sure?
Well, I see the shadow on his face a little bit, but I like his right side.
What do you think?
I actually think it's good. I'm kind of sinking into the darkness a little bit.
He's sinking into the darkness a little bit, he says. He says, I really want that little bit of salt and pepper I've been working at to show up in this frame.
Okay.
You started, man. I'm gonna let you have it. All right. So let's give him a hair light. You know, because that's always one of the questions I get from people is like, how many lights should I buy? You know, what do I need? And the answer is you need one. When you decide that you've gotten everything you can get out of that and you feel like you can more creatively express yourself, tell a better story, get a second one. Then there's going to come a point where you've mastered that. Get a third one or a fourth one. But we're going to add him another light. I'm going to get out of the way as much as I can. Now we're backwards from where we were before, but we're going to be close. I think that I'm going to be really close to him because of the space. Is that out of your shot? Okay. Look at him, man. Make some eye contact. Look hard. Look tough. How do you feel about that one? You're happy with that? Eric, good job. Eric, what do you think? Now, do you think you could do that yourself? So what would you do different? Let's just be real critical of ourselves in this last 3 minutes. What would you do to make it different or better?
I guess,
Let's see what would happen if we brought the main light more in front of him. He says he wants to see what would happen if we brought the main light more in front of him. Just because he wants to see what that's going to look like. Yeah, we're good. So, is that in your shot? It's not? All right, hold on a second. Let me get you that hair light again. Wait, hold on a second. Let's do this one first. Come on, man. You're going to really let that go? Okay. There's two of them. All right. So, I had to make it happen. All right. Now give me that. So separation turned out nice, but I still think that we're not getting quite enough light in his eyes. Like, I'm looking at it. And what's your name, man?
Devin.
Devin?
Go by Denier.
What do you go by?
Denier.
Is it, if I give the first name, or is the cops coming?
Both is my
Okay, we're good. Okay. So D, it's just going to be D. So D has got, between his pose that he chose, and he's got a well-formed forehead. This light being up on top is throwing us some shadows. So we got, a couple choices, and we're going to be done in a second, Seth, right? All right. I'm going to tilt this down a little bit, but then I'm going to raise it a little bit. So frame your shot up. And I'm going to raise this until you can't see it. So just look through and tell me when you don't see it anymore. Out of your shot. All right. Can you go a little bit lower? All right. Can you see it now? No? Can you see it now? Can you see it now? All right. Don't go that low. All right. Let's just take that shot real quick without the second light. So we got all that drama back in for sure. And if we zoom in on just his face, I bet you we got a little more catch light, but I can't tell for sure. So let's do this.
Just tilt it.
I'm going to tilt it a little bit, and we're going to turn up that power a little bit. This is, slow down. Just one shot. Pretend you're Eminem. You got one shot. Are you? Oh, it can take it. All right, hold on, Eric. So he keeps tilting down. All right, there. Give it a little bit more room to hit him. Go ahead. All right, let's see that. You're looking pretty hard.
You said look.
I know. I was like, man. All right, and then you get one last one, and then you got to hit him up to make sure he gives you these pictures. But mostly the one I want you to post is the one with me and you. We look very cute together.
Absolutely.
All right, wait, let's do this real quick. There, is that out of your shot? Okay. There. We ended up with, it's not bad, but we ended up with it in the shot. All right, do one more. Does anybody got any questions from home before we shut this down? So because Eric's not using his lens hood, we're getting a little bit of lens flare because this is aimed back at him. Way to go, Eric. Am I out of your frame now? Is there any questions that need an answer, Seth? How do we feel about that?
I'm definitely popping. This is an ideal picture.
You like that one?
A little bit more harsh on the top.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit above, but you know, you're gonna use this for your Tinder?
Oh, absolutely.
We're cool. All right.
Absolutely. It's definitely going up.
All right, brother. Eric, you have fun?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Is there any more questions here?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming out. Any questions? Is that because like I was so boring that you got nothing, or because I covered what you wanted to hear about? Okay. There's. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Where am I at? Anything that we need to address?
No. Do you want to do a follow me, whatever, blah, blah?
What was that?
Do you want to do a follow me at whatever, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah. If you guys follow me at JC Photo Media, that'll make me feel good about myself. Thank you. Appreciate you. Aside from that, guys, like one last thing, we can stop streaming real quick because this is only for the people in the store. Because if you don't show up, you don't get this cool benefit that I'm about to talk about.
Why don't you do a proper sign off and then I'll close the stream out.
Hey everybody, it's JC from Westcott, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Remember to support the places that support you.
Yes.
There's a lot of free education on this channel. Seth, all jokes aside, kills himself to make this happen. There are places there's a million places that you guys can buy stuff. For us, price is the same everywhere. So support the places that support you. You know, one twig, easy to break. A community, we get a bunch of twigs, hard to break. Be a community. Support those places that make this possible for you. The first bunch of you got some kind of
Everybody
a
clap
bonus.
so I can sign off. Everyone clap.
Everybody clap, please. All right.